she has been honored, just today we find out, by the Emmys with a daytime Emmy nod for that hideous Netflix show she did.
Meghan Markle breaks her agreement with King Charles and Buckingham Palace to leak to her friends at People magazine less than a week after that promised meeting with Charles and Queen Camilla.
Prince Harry is apparently upset with Elton John because they were all in this lawsuit against the Daily Mail UK.
I just don't see those as bad traits. What I see is somebody very organised who knows what they want to do and also wants to get on with it.
She certainly knows that she's in a far more invidious position than she would have hoped to be in.
Let's start with the royals. Page 6 is reporting that Meghan Markle felt humiliated on Prince Harry's most recent UK trip and that the trip turned into a nightmare, forcing Markle and her children to return home to California earlier than they had hoped.
Breaking today, Meghan Markle breaks her agreement with King Charles and Buckingham Palace to leak to her friends at People magazine less than a week.
It took only a few days for fresh controversy to surround Prince Harry and Meghan Markle once again.
Meanwhile, Prince Harry has arrived back in the United States, completely fine, proving the point that I have made, by the way, for months and years, that they can travel in and out of the UK with their children privately with absolutely no issues whatsoever.
What makes this situation different is that it revolves around a promise that was reportedly made to King Charles, followed almost immediately by claims that details of a private royal matter found their way into the media.
According to the reports being discussed, the understanding after Prince Harry's meeting with King Charles and Queen Camilla was that there would be no public briefings or anonymous leaks designed to influence how the visit was perceived.
Exactly what had happened, why William will absolutely, definitely have no nothing to do with Harry. And I can tell you very quickly if you want to know.
Of course I do.
The goal was supposedly simple: allow the meeting to remain private and avoid another public battle over competing narratives. Yet only days later, People magazine published an extensive feature that many commentators believe contained information originating from individuals close to Harry and Meghan.
As you saw from that People magazine cover, they couldn't hold their silence. What they had told King Charles was a lie, because look at that. Harry's royal reunion at last. His family visit Charles as new drama unfolds inside Prince Harry's turbulent UK visit, from a public palace dispute to a crushing court loss to a long-awaited reunion with King Charles alongside Meghan, Archie and Lily.
That immediately reignited accusations that the agreement for silence had been broken almost as soon as it had been made.
The timing drew even more attention because Prince Harry had already returned to the United States without incident. His journey itself became part of the larger debate surrounding security and the reasons previously given for various travel decisions.
The magazine's cover presented the trip as a long-awaited royal reunion, while describing a turbulent week that included Prince Harry's legal defeat, discussions involving King Charles, and references to Meghan Markle and their children, Archie and Lilibet.
And I think the reporting directly contravenes what Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had agreed with the palace, which was that there was to be no briefing around this visit to try and shape the narrative in favour of one party. But she can't help herself, can she? So this is the cover report where People says the Duchess planned to be by her husband's side for several outings.
Supporters viewed the article as ordinary reporting, but critics focus on several specific passages. They argued that the wording seemed carefully designed to shape public opinion about Meghan's role in the visit. Instead of simply recounting events, they believed the story subtly redirected responsibility away from her.
One particular claim quickly became the center of discussion.
We've talked about Prince William apparently no plans at all to end his war with his brother. He avoided defended him on his UK return last week, vehemently angry with how his brother has treated the monarchy in general. Said it last week.
It stated that Meghan had originally intended to accompany Prince Harry for several engagements before changing those plans because of security concerns.
That explanation immediately raised questions because many royal commentators argued there had been no meaningful change in the security arrangements at all. From their perspective, the conditions under which Harry traveled remained consistent from beginning to end.
However, there was an about face when security concerns prevented her and their 2 children from a full visit to Harry's home country. Now, again, this is totally intellectually dishonest reporting from People magazine. There's been no about face. Nothing has changed. Like, they got the security that has already been agreed. So no about face, just to correct that.
I think in the end, and I know that William and Camilla were against the idea of it, but in the end, you know, I think to myself, it's actually quite clever, and I'll tell you why. He can tick the box, Charles, tick the box of I'm a dad.
If nothing significant had changed, they asked, why the article described an apparent last-minute reversal. To those critics, the narrative appeared less like new information and more like an attempt to justify Meghan's absence in a way that generated sympathy.
Ms. Pepper is no longer interested in the salt shaker, if you understand what I mean. Torre Buckerhay, writing Prince Harry, the bonehead, who sinks millions into failed privacy actions and who says camera flashes terrify him, is now doing cheesy, have you got my best side, guys? Camera turns at celebrity galas like he's Meghan Markle's sugar lump veneers. Hypocritical old ham. And indeed,
another sentence in the article attracted just as much scrutiny. It claimed that whenever Prince Harry deals with matters involving the royal family, Meghan...
But why this matters, of course, is that we know that Prince Harry has in the past directly emailed People magazine. We know that People magazine effectively operates as like the house journal for the Sussexes. And we know that Meghan Markle wanted it to be known to the world that the choreography of this meeting was nothing to do with her. Look at the headline. Meghan Markle always lets Prince Harry lead when it comes to the royal family. There's a lot of sadness over how the week unfolded and that she wasn't able to be by his side throughout the visit.
always allows him to take the lead.
On the surface, that statement sounds harmless, but many observers interpreted it differently.
But if I did have tea with milk,
yes,
I would use milk first, then tea from proper leaves. If I have something to dab in, then I would never use milk.
I love you. He's just
Not
brilliant.
very.
The fruit tea loving non-Meghan Markle royal biographer with class. Angela Levin, thank you for joining us.
They argued that it positioned Meghan as someone standing back while Harry independently handled every important decision involving his relatives.
That she would have felt humiliated. Oh, poor Meghan. Humiliated watching the public back and forth unfold. Another source tells People Meghan is very supportive of Harry, adding there's a lot of sadness over how the week unfolded and that she wasn't able to be by his side. However, another insider adds when it comes to Harry's dealings with his family, she always lets him lead. Behind the scenes, the drama surrounding the visit was quite stressful.
For people already skeptical of anonymous royal briefings, the wording felt unusually deliberate. Rather than presenting two equal partners making joint choices, it emphasized Harry as a sole decision maker, while distancing Meghan from any criticism surrounding the visit.
Love it. Life is good.
Outstanding.
You're perfect. There it is.
And one lady, there's one lady, it's me.
She's the best.
That interpretation became even stronger because People magazine has frequently been linked with stories involving the Sussexes over the years. The publication has often been viewed as receiving information from individuals close to the couple.
Well, I think that'll probably be a big issue for them because they do love a controversy because it boosts their brand, it boosts their numbers. But the reality is, you summed it up brilliantly in that intro, but you know, this has been a fiasco, it's been a circus, but actually, has it really hit anybody? You know, I thought actually it was quite, after all the to and froing, it was quite low key. That the bigger picture was on Wales's and them at Wimbledon and William playing polo.
Previous reports have noted occasions where Prince Harry communicated directly with the magazine instead of relying exclusively on official representatives. Because of that history, critics argued there was little mystery about where such detailed background information might have originated.
Look at my bag of pretzels. I'm putting it in another bag of pretzels.
What? Who's phoning and giving her that? Why a daytime Emmy nominations? Very few of us get those.
Well, you know, what she did was, obviously, one of the production companies paid to have her considered for the nomination. And then, yeah.
Wow. You're on one today.
Whether the information came from friends, advisors, or members of their communication circle, they believed the article reflected perspectives that closely aligned with the Sussexes rather than independent reporting. Supporters disagree with that conclusion, but the perception itself became a major part of the story.
Writing Prince Harry, the bonehead, who sinks millions into failed privacy actions and who says camera flashes terrify him, is now doing cheesy "have you got my best side, guys" camera turns at celebrity galas like he's Meghan Markle's sugar lump veneers. Hypocritical old ham. And indeed, he was loving this event so much overnight that he even praised the photographers, who he usually claims to despise.
The article also emphasized Meghan's emotional state. Anonymous sources described her as saddened by how the week unfolded and disappointed that she could not remain beside her husband throughout the visit.
And her husband lost big in court. No one wants to be seen on the arm of a loser. I think that this trip was a reality check. Harry has spent years insisting he can be half in and half out of the monarchy, and the British public just reminded him that isn't how it works, and if you look at the media that was generated while he was there, for the most part, he was rejected. And the nightmare wasn't just the trip. It was discovering that the privilege of royalty, doesn't automatically survive after you quit your job.
Those descriptions were intended to paint a picture of someone frustrated by circumstances beyond her control. However, opponents argued that the emotional framing distracted attention from the larger questions surrounding the original promise of privacy. If the understanding with Buckingham Palace was to avoid shaping public narratives,
behind the scenes, the drama surrounding the visit was quite stressful, says a source close to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, so we're meant to feel sorry for them here. Eventually, it was decided that Prince Harry would return to the UK solo for the week of charity events, with Meghan and the children returning to England later in the week for the reunion. For those close to Harry, the public wrangling was as frustrating as it was familiar. This is not the first time. It has not been plain sailing with correspondence or trying to make things work.
Then releasing personal details about feelings, private conversations, and decision-making seemed, in their view, to undermine that commitment. Whether intentional or not, the coverage shifted public discussion away from the meeting itself and back toward familiar debates about media strategy.
I'm seeing my son. I can't be accused of ostracizing him. There was obviously real pressure for them not to print or say anything. And if anything does come from that, then he has the absolute right to say, we're done.
While those arguments continued, Prince Harry appeared publicly in the United States at a high-profile event. His appearance generated an entirely separate discussion.
Cameras surrounded him as photographers documented his arrival and interactions throughout the event.
I mean, I just don't see those as bad traits. What I see is somebody very organized who knows what they want to do and also wants to get on with it. Part of the thing about being the monarchy in waiting as it is that when you look at, say, His Majesty the King Charles, he had a long time, but you can't do much because it's a constraint. You've got the monarch at the top, which was his mum, the Queen.
For some observers, there was an obvious contradiction. Prince Harry has spent years arguing in court that intrusive media attention has had a profound impact on his life, and has repeatedly spoken about the emotional consequences of relentless photography following the death of Princess Diana. Yet, at this event, critics argued he appeared comfortable engaging with photographers, smiling for cameras, and participating in the normal routines expected on a celebrity red carpet. Others responded that attending a scheduled public event under controlled conditions is fundamentally different from intrusive or dangerous press behavior, highlighting how divided opinions remain whenever Harry's relationship with the media is discussed.
I thought that this whole nonsense about the security was something they've just dreamed up from their own team. If you speak to people in the intelligence services, there is no threat against Harry, and that is why Ravak have not stepped up the security. If there was, the security level would be higher, and he would get an appropriate security as long as he gave them the notice that is required to actually do that review.
The week, therefore, became about much more than a single magazine article. It evolved into another chapter in the ongoing debate over trust, privacy, public image, and the increasingly complicated relationship between Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Buckingham Palace, and the media.
I think that King Charles's meeting with Prince Harry ultimately, and I understand a man living with cancer, grandchildren, I get it, but I think ultimately it makes him look weak, and a lot of people are disappointed.
By the end of those few days, nearly every major topic surrounding the Sussexes had resurfaced at once. Questions about confidentiality, family relationships, security arrangements, media strategy, and public perception all became intertwined again. Instead of the reported meeting with King Charles serving as a quiet moment of reconciliation, attention quickly shifted back to competing narratives, anonymous sources, and renewed scrutiny over who was shaping the story behind the scenes.
I think he nearly played the palace, nearly got away with it, because in the week he knew when that case was coming back, he knew probably that what the result was going to be before anybody else. And the fact was, he is a princely, he calls himself a Prince of England and a stay-at-home dad, whatever he's supposed to be.
And the inventor of the Invictus Games, Jobbo, but no mention of Archewell.
That isn't true, because he got that from America. I remember that it was the year before, it was called the Warrior Games.
Yeah.
As attention shifted from a magazine coverage, another debate quickly took over. This time, it centered on Prince Harry's long-running fight over security and whether the events of the week actually strengthened or weakened his argument.
Throughout the discussion, critics pointed to one simple fact.
You say she's got a tick, yeah, her kids met the king, their grandfather, but in her world, she would want that seen, she would want that heard. I don't think that will have done much to her. I think the reason she didn't show her face in the United Kingdom is because she knows what people think about her here. I really do think that.
Prince Harry traveled into the United Kingdom, attended his engagements, and returned to California without any reported security incident. To them, that successful trip reinforced a position they have held for years.
I think that really they are latter-day entertainment. I mean, Harry made the point that the palace wanted to turn him into the Truman Show. What he didn't realize was that he was marrying a woman who would turn him and her into the Truman Show, and that he would end up having great regrets about it.
That private visits can take place safely under the current arrangements. They argued that if the journey itself was completed without disruption, it naturally raised questions about why additional protection remained such a central issue.
In what he's doing in the royal family. And so, he's got nowhere and he's got no experience. So actually, William didn't like that, surprise, surprise. No. And Harry was also very rude about Catherine, and he was very cross about that. So that puts him out of the picture.
Others, however, maintain that the absence of an incident does not necessarily mean the underlying concerns are invalid, since security planning often aims to prevent risks before they ever become visible.
And also attacking a High Court judge and also suing the government. These are the three pillars, a free press, an independent judiciary, and a government that is elected, that his father, as the king, is there to secure. He stands to, he is there to serve those pillars of the community. Otherwise, there is no point of a monarchy. And what worries me, and it does worry me actually, is that if Harry had been coming out of Buckingham Palace, the headquarters of monarchy,
Much of the conversation focused on how royal security is actually determined. Many people assume it is a personal privilege, but officials have repeatedly stated that it is based on risk assessments rather than royal titles alone.
Since stepping back from royal duties in 2020, Prince Harry has been challenging the decision that removed his automatic taxpayer-funded police protection while he is in Britain.
On the basis of what?
I don't know.
What kind of insult is this?
No, I'm not insulting you. I'm scared. I'm scared of you this morning. I've had no sleep, and your boyfriend got upset about the football. She does, though. Both of you would agree with this. She don't get the bloody message, does she?
No.
She doesn't, Kins.
His legal team has argued that the existing arrangements are inadequate for someone who remains internationally recognizable and who has faced public threats in the past.
She has shown everybody that she is sadistic in the view of many people. I need to qualify that, and only for legal reasons, because the fact of the matter is that, in my opinion, and in the opinion of countless people, she has shown that she is a true sadist, and she's certainly also shown people, and they have said it in their millions, that she is not only sadistic, but that she is also definitely antisocial.
Government representatives, meanwhile, have maintained that each visit is assessed individually, with security measures determined according to professional evaluations rather than personal preference. That disagreement has been at the center of years of legal proceedings, and during this latest visit, it once again became one of the most heavily debated subjects.
Combinations of different flowers or different smells or things like that.
I worry, Liz, I don't want to upset you, but you're sounding remarkably like Meghan Markle. I thought you'd be a Yorkshire tea.
Meghan Markle.
You what?
I'm nothing like Meghan Markle, let me tell you that.
Commentators also questioned whether the locations Harry has visited around the world match the argument being presented. Several examples were repeatedly mentioned.
It doesn't. And that was, I thought, the reaction. It wasn't hostility. It wasn't hate from the British public. It was just disinterest, which I think they probably despise more than anything because they want attention. Before we move on, just quickly tell me about that courtroom loss. We haven't spoken since that came about. That was humiliating. It could be very costly for Prince Harry.
Critics pointed out that Prince Harry has traveled to countries including Colombia, Nigeria, and Ukraine in recent years. Ukraine in particular remains an active conflict zone, making that visit especially notable. Their argument was straightforward. If travel to those destinations could be arranged safely, why would a charity engagement in Birmingham suddenly become an impossible security challenge?
I think it's very clear with Harry. I think we saw it at Chatham House last week when he finally got the news from his, solicitor, lawyer, David Sherborne, who came flouncing in like the Scarlet Pimpernel to try and cover his tracks, because clearly David Sherborne is the person that will now get the wrath. Behind the scenes, Harry, for all the smiles on the red carpet of this event that he attended alone, bottom line is he doesn't really know what to do. Somebody else is going to have to clean this up.
Supporters rejected that comparison, explaining that every country presents different risks and that each visit involves separate planning and coordination. Still, the comparison continued circulating widely because it seemed, at least to some observers, difficult to reconcile.
All right, and that went on. That was with Oprah Winfrey in 2021, and then it's on because Harry seems to want to play like a silly child. Here they are playing like silly children, but
Another important point involved who ultimately pays for protection. That financial aspect has become almost as controversial as the security issue itself.
Reports estimate that Prince Harry currently spends millions of dollars each year on private security for himself and his family in California.
Constitutional crisis. If he had made that statement from within the rooms of Buckingham Palace, which is what he intended to do. Then can we move on to this People magazine briefing, Jobber? Just before I get your take on it, our Substack colleague, Tom Sykes of The Royalist, very, very good. He's making the point that this leak is Meghan trying to make herself the victim in all of this somehow. So he writes, what was it that was so awful this time, Pet? The audience with the king at his Highgrove sanctuary, the offer of an apartment at Buckingham Palace, maybe. No, apparently it was the very public way the back and forth about the visit was conducted.
Critics argue that if his legal campaign succeeded in restoring the level of publicly funded protection he is seeking, much of that financial responsibility could eventually shift to British taxpayers whenever official protection applied. Supporters respond that security should never be viewed simply as a financial calculation.
Will she win? I don't know. This show's absolutely ludicrous. Meet my best friends. Hi, nice to meet you.
Never met them. Welcome to my kitchen. It's not my kitchen. Have a look at my recipe. I've never cooked a bloody meal deal in my life. I mean, the whole thing's...
Especially when the individual involved remains one of the world's most recognizable public figures. Even so, the potential long-term costs have become an increasingly significant part of public discussion surrounding the case.
The story also revived claims about conversations that reportedly took place before Harry and Meghan left royal duties. According to several royal commentators, King Charles had warned his son about exactly this issue.
So Sykes argues the only people responsible for this playing out in public were Harry and Meghan. The palace said nothing. They sat patient as a hall porter waiting for the couple to make up their minds about a hospitality offer that had been sitting on the table for months. It was Harry's people, his people. Tom just emphasizes that point, and I think it's a point worth emphasizing, who put the trip in the papers. His people who confirmed the children. His people who then days later put out a second announcement saying he was now reconsidering whether to bring Meghan and the children at all because of a security row that per the first announcement they had already accepted and were quite comfortable working around. So, Jobbo, given that context from Tom Sykes, which I think was brilliantly explained, actually,
Those accounts suggest that Charles explained leaving official royal responsibilities would almost certainly affect government-funded security. The warning, according to those reports, was that stepping away from the institution would also mean stepping away from many of its formal protections. Whether every detail of those private conversations is accurate remains impossible to verify publicly, but the story has continued to circulate because it fits the broader timeline of events following the Sussexes' departure from royal life in 2020.
The notice that was required to actually do that review. The other thing is, look at what else would have happened really on this one, Dan, is if I'm thinking nearly played the palace, nearly got away with it, because in the week he knew when that case was coming back, he knew probably that what the result was going to be before anybody else. And the fact was, he is a prince, he calls himself a Prince of England and a stay-at-home dad, whatever he's supposed to be.
And the inventor of the Invictus Games, Jobbo, but no mention of Archewell.
That isn't true, because he got that.
The discussion then moved beyond security and into constitutional questions. Some commentators argue that the issue had become much larger than one family's disagreements.
During the same period, Prince Harry publicly criticized the outcome of his legal challenge and expressed strong dissatisfaction with the court's decision.
Incredible stuff. Now, there is some good news for the couple. The Duchess, her Netflix program With Love, Meghan, has received a Daytime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Lifestyle Series. To celebrate the nomination, Meghan took to Instagram and wrote a huge congratulations to the amazing crew, producers and team who worked on With Love, Meghan. Kenzie, a Daytime Emmy nomination? I mean, this may be a new low.
Critics argued that these comments, combined with his ongoing legal actions involving sections of the British press and the government, placed him in direct conflict with institutions that the monarchy traditionally supports. From their perspective, the monarchy exists above political disputes and relies on respecting independent courts, a free press, and constitutional government.
The whole business of this circus that came into town, effectively they were holding a gun to the king's head. There's nothing these children have done wrong, Archie and Lilibet, and I'm sure like you, like me, feel they're totally innocent. But they are being used in a way that is pretty despicable, because what's the king supposed to be? You know, what's the king supposed to do? He's told his grandchildren are coming to England, and that his son and daughter-in-law would like him to meet them and to have some sort of interaction with them for the first time in 4 years, for the first time in their memory, really. Of course he's going to say yes.
Supporters of Harry, however, contend that pursuing legal action through established judicial processes is itself part of exercising legal rights within a democratic system.
While these debates unfolded, another issue quietly emerged behind the scenes. It involved where Prince Harry was expected to stay during the visit.
Well, this is a reminder that industry awards and audience enthusiasm are not always measuring the same thing. There's no question that more people watched TikTok parodies of With Love, Meghan than watched her actual program on Netflix. And, you know,
reports suggested that accommodation had been discussed within Buckingham Palace before plans changed. That detail immediately attracted attention because of the symbolic importance of the location. Some commentators argued that allowing Harry to stay at the palace while simultaneously criticizing British institutions could have created uncomfortable political optics for the royal family.
Awards are interesting in Hollywood. Someone pays to be considered for a nomination in a category with no competition, and they get to boast that they're Emmy nominated. But one nomination or award doesn't guarantee a successful entertainment career, and it certainly won't turn around a reputation for being difficult to work with in Hollywood, which we know Meghan has developed.
Others viewed the accommodation offer as evidence that King Charles remained willing to maintain family ties despite continuing public disagreements. Regardless of which interpretation people accepted, the discussion demonstrated how even practical arrangements surrounding the visit were being viewed through a much broader constitutional and political lens.
At the center of everything remained King Charles himself. Beyond politics and media narratives, many observers believed his personal circumstances influenced every decision.
They revealed the Netflix news to the New York Times. So both the New York Times and People magazine running on the same day, Jobbo, pieces sort of trying to blame Prince William for this ongoing Cold War between the brothers. And again, I don't think it's a coincidence. Let me just take you through what the reporting is. People magazine writing Prince William and Prince Harry still have no contact.
The king continues to receive treatment following his cancer diagnosis, making every family interaction especially significant in the eyes of both supporters and critics. Reports indicated that one reason invitations remained open was the possibility of spending time with Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, grandchildren he has seen only rarely in recent years. Some commentators described that as an act of generosity from a grandfather hoping to strengthen family relationships. Others questioned whether the children's potential visit had unintentionally become part of a wider public narrative surrounding reconciliation.
Wants to be seen as the bigger person, because Harry and Meghan are never going to be. So this is King Charles saying, you know, I put our issues aside and I saw my grandchildren and I saw my son, and in a way,
whatever the motivation, the situation highlighted how personal family matters, constitutional responsibilities, and global media attention have become almost impossible to separate whenever the royal family is involved.
By this stage, the original controversy over anonymous briefings had expanded into something much broader. It was no longer just about one magazine story or one visit to Britain.
Instead, the discussion now encompassed legal battles, security policy, constitutional tradition, taxpayer responsibility, and the fragile relationship between Prince Harry and the institution he once served as a working royal. Every new development was interpreted through those larger themes, ensuring that even relatively ordinary decisions attracted extraordinary levels of scrutiny.
Harry, in a sense, realizes that the only way back in for him is to get back in, with the royals. Now, Harry's not stupid in this respect. He knows that he's 100% blown it with William and indeed Catherine and the three children. If there was a sense of any wanting to make any effort, then Catherine could have brought the children along, or George along at least, who may remember Harry.
And as public opinion remained deeply divided, each side continued finding evidence that supported its own version of events, making consensus more difficult than ever.
and that's one of the reasons why I couldn't believe King Charles saw him so quickly after he was so disrespectful and released that statement. However, to your point, I wonder if King Charles, legacy-wise,
as the visit continued to dominate headlines, attention shifted toward another question that had been circulating for weeks. Why didn't Meghan Markle travel to Britain alongside Prince Harry, especially if the visit was being described as an opportunity for family reconciliation?
Good. Okay. Well,
let's begin, children.
Let's begin. Sit down and have a nice cup of tea.
Come on, Mummy.
No.
That doesn't sound right.
The first thing is in Harry's book, Spare, right, where he said that William was trapped.
The official explanation centered on security concerns involving Meghan, Prince Archie, and Princess Lilibet. According to reports discussed at the time, the decision was made for Prince Harry to attend the charity engagements alone, while the rest of the family remained in California. Supporters argued that protecting young children and avoiding unnecessary risks was a reasonable choice. Critics, however, believe the explanation failed to match the circumstances because the overall security arrangements had reportedly remained unchanged from the beginning of the trip. That disagreement became one of the most debated aspects of the entire visit.
Some royal commentators offered a different interpretation altogether. They believed timing rather than security may have played a larger role in Meghan's absence.
Prince Harry, of course, he lost this lawsuit. And in the UK, you got to pay damages. You usually have to pay the other side's legal fees. Prince Harry could be on the hook for tens of millions of dollars, okay? And I don't care how many flower sprinkles or wickless candles his wife sells, there's no way you're making that kind of money. In fact, I think I'm one of the only people who's bought these products. But nonetheless, Prince Harry is upset with Elton John because he thinks he should give him the cash. Let me read you. So Sky News is reporting Elton John has grown tired of Prince Harry, as reports say that he has asked Elton John to help pay his legal fees and fund some of the Invictus Games, as funding is said to have fallen through and he's £25 million short.
Prince Harry had just experienced one of the biggest legal defeats of his campaign over security arrangements, and every public appearance during that week attracted intense media attention. Some analysts argued that appearing beside him immediately after such a highly publicized setback would inevitably associate Meghan with headlines focused on courtroom losses rather than charitable work or family reconciliation.
Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom is set to reckon with his ugly past as his former mistress prepares for a sit-down interview with Vanity Fair. The interview will detail the tryst that rocked San Francisco politics, where Newsom was mayor at the time. That was what he did before he became governor of California. He engaged in an affair with Ruby Ripney Gibney, who was his appointment secretary and was married to his campaign manager and friend. Kinsey, so he was not only betraying his own partner, but also his great mate. I mean, what a guy.
Others dismissed that theory completely, insisting there was no evidence that public image influenced the decision. Nevertheless, it remained one of the explanations frequently discussed throughout the coverage.
Another suggestion attracted even more attention. It involved how Meghan might have been received by the British public if she had attended events in person.
Critics claim there was concern she could face an openly hostile reception during public appearances, particularly at large gatherings where crowds and cameras would be unavoidable. They argued that unlike online criticism, televised public reactions can shape international perception within minutes. Supporters rejected that argument, saying it relied entirely on speculation rather than confirmed evidence. Since Meghan never attended the events, there is no way to know how the public would actually have responded.
An insider also claimed Harry believed Elton had a responsibility to help because he introduced him to his lawyer, David Sherborne. Harry feels John brought him into this whole lawsuit and therefore should help him out with Invictus. Elton is not a bank. Elton said no, and Harry was very hurt. I could have told you this. Number one, Prince Harry, you are a spoiled brat. None of us expect other people to come along and pay our bills, okay? We got to get up here and work. I got to sell cowboy colostrum. We don't expect people to come along and just make our lives hunky-dory. We're in the driver's seat.
But the possibility became another major talking point during discussions surrounding the visit.
One engagement in particular stood out because many people had expected Meghan to be there. It involved preparations for the next Invictus Games.
The Invictus Games remain one of Prince Harry's most significant charitable achievements, celebrating wounded, injured, and sick service personnel from around the world. Many observers believe the countdown event would have been an ideal opportunity for both Harry and Meghan to appear together, reinforcing support for a project they have promoted for years.
Betraying his wife, he was allegedly betraying one of his closest political allies. That's a spectacular failure of judgment. Politicians always tell us character matters. Voters get to decide whether character still matters when it's their preferred politician. But this goes beyond gossip. It goes directly to questions of trust, loyalty, and judgment. This man wants to be America's next president and has the moral compass of Hunter Biden on a bender. I'm very concerned.
Well, I think Hunter did one better. It wasn't just his best mate who he was betraying. He ended up coupled up with his...
When that did not happen, critics interpreted the absence as another missed opportunity, while supporters emphasized that Harry's commitment to the games remained unchanged, regardless of who accompanied him.
Around the same time, attention also turned toward the couple's business ventures. Several developments in the United States became part of the wider conversation.
I don't think Harry is as motivated as he used to be to make a shed load of money at this point. I don't think his situation suits him to be making a great deal of money, and certainly not by betraying the interests of his family. And let us remember that the person who is accused of having murdered Diana was Harry's supposedly beloved grandfather, Prince Philip, who was ludicrously accused of that crime by Mohammed Fayed.
Meghan's Netflix lifestyle series had generated sharply divided reactions following its release. Some reviewers praised its polished production and relaxed presentation, while others criticized its format and overall concept. Despite those mixed reviews, the program later received recognition in the form of a Daytime Emmy nomination, something supporters viewed as evidence that industry professionals appreciated aspects of the production. Critics, on the other hand, questioned how a show that received such varied critical responses could still earn award recognition.
Yeah, one thing that stands out to me is the contrast. Brad Pitt seems to have thrown himself into work and largely stopped litigating this divorce in public. Meanwhile, every few months, there's another headline that keeps the family conflict alive. Fair or not, that contrast makes Brad look like the adult in the room. You know, I've consistently found myself more sympathetic to Brad Pitt because he doesn't appear to have made this divorce his entire public identity. He's making movies. He's moving forward. The public narrative from the other side still seems anchored in a marriage that ended years ago.
The differing opinions reflected the broader divide that often surrounds projects connected to the Sussexes.
Financial questions also resurfaced during the same period. Commentators began examining how several ongoing issues might affect Prince Harry's future.
Between continuing legal expenses, private security costs, and the changing landscape of entertainment partnerships, analysts speculated about the long-term financial pressures facing the Duke of Sussex.
A reunion with Prince William. Harry is clearly repairing his relationship with King Charles III, but the rift with his brother remains unresolved. Now, Jobbo, they officially say that spokespeople for Prince Harry declined to comment.
Much of this discussion remains speculative, since the couple's private finances are not publicly disclosed. However, commentators argued that maintaining a high-profile international lifestyle while pursuing multiple legal cases inevitably carries significant financial commitments. Others pointed out that Harry and Meghan continue to operate through media projects, charitable work, and commercial ventures that provide additional income streams beyond their former royal roles.
Reports also emerged involving Prince Harry's friendship with Sir Elton John. Those claims quickly attracted widespread attention.
According to media reports discussed by several commentators, Prince Harry was said to have approached Elton John regarding financial support connected to legal costs and funding associated with the Invictus Games. The reports suggested Harry believed Elton, who had previously introduced him to legal representatives involved in litigation, might be willing to assist. Those claims have not been independently confirmed by either party, and neither Harry nor Elton John has publicly verified the reported conversations. Nevertheless, the story spread rapidly because of their long-standing friendship and Elton John's previous public support for the Sussexes.
King Charles was also drawn back into the financial discussion. Reports indicated he had already established clear boundaries regarding future assistance.
I think that there's been 2 meetings, solo meetings, isn't there? And there's been one where they got them together. So the optics were there. They basically forced the king's arm. I think it's very significant by saying that they were bringing the kids. Then they did all this sort of nonsense that in between, they're not coming, they are coming. And the king obviously quite rightly got frustrated with that. And then they basically agreed to the king's rules. It's no doubt whatsoever the fact that Camilla, the queen, was there as Charles, his Rottweiler, as his guardian, to make sure that he didn't make any promises or do things that they...
Following Harry and Meghan's departure from working royal duties, King Charles continued funding certain expenses for a period before those arrangements ended. Over time, reports suggested the king made it clear that his financial support would not continue indefinitely. Whether every reported conversation occurred exactly as described remains private, but commentators frequently reference the phrase that Charles was no longer prepared to act as a financial safety net. Supporters viewed that as a reasonable boundary between public responsibilities and private family matters, while critics argued family relationships are rarely as straightforward as public reporting suggests.
Even with all these separate controversies unfolding, public attention remained fixed on one larger question. Could relations between Prince Harry and the royal family realistically improve?
Reports continued to indicate that communication between Prince Harry and King Charles had taken place, but little progress appeared to have been made regarding Prince William.
Here were some of the reviews, Adam, of this show that's now been Emmy nominated. First of all, it had a 38% score on Rotten Tomatoes. The Rotten Tomatoes critics' consensus called it insistently pleasant, but ultimately sterile. Vulture, an utterly deranged, bizarro world voyage into the center of nothing. Season 2, The Times of London, occupies the sweet spot where irrelevant meets intolerable. The Telegraph, a 2-star review.
Multiple publications suggested there had been no meaningful contact between the brothers during the visit, reinforcing the view that their relationship remains deeply strained. While meetings between Harry and his father were widely discussed, the absence of any visible reconciliation with William became equally significant. For many observers, repairing one relationship without addressing the other illustrated just how complex the wider family situation has become.
Before we continue, if you found this discussion balanced and informative, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone interested in following developments surrounding the royal family. We'd also like to hear your perspective in the comments, because this remains one of the most debated stories involving the monarchy today.
Public opinion remains sharply divided, and respectful discussion often reveals viewpoints that headlines alone cannot capture. Whether you agree with Prince Harry and Meghan, support the royal family's position, or simply want to understand the facts more clearly.
Fruit around. I mean, I've had three sons to get off to school and everything. Who's got any of that time? The children aren't that interested to have a beautiful rainbow in the morning. Absolute nonsense. I don't believe it. That's all because you can't do anything that's really interesting. Anyone can cut up raspberries.
Thoughtful conversation helps separate confirmed information from speculation. Your comments help shape future discussions, so feel free to share your own analysis while keeping the conversation respectful and focused on the issues themselves.
As the discussion continued, another issue quietly became one of the most important questions surrounding Prince Harry's future. It wasn't just about public appearances or family relationships anymore. Increasingly, attention was turning toward what comes next.
By this stage, several different pressures had converged at once. Prince Harry remained involved in legal disputes, continued paying for private security in California, and was navigating a career built around media projects, charitable initiatives, and public speaking rather than official royal duties. Commentators argued that the combination of legal costs, changing business partnerships, and an uncertain relationship with the royal family had created one of the most challenging periods since he and Meghan stepped back as senior working royals in 2020. Supporters, however, maintained that building an independent life was always expected to involve obstacles, and that the couple remained committed to forging their own path.
One moment from the week unexpectedly became symbolic for many observers. It came during a simple interview when Prince Harry was asked about his occupation.
His response sparked widespread discussion because he mentioned several different parts of his identity rather than giving a straightforward professional title. He referred to being a father, a military veteran, and the prince while speaking in a relaxed, conversational manner. Some commentators argued that the exchange illustrated how unique his position has become. He is no longer a working royal, carrying out official constitutional duties, yet he also occupies a place unlike almost any other public figure, balancing family responsibilities, charitable work, commercial projects, and the global attention that follows him wherever he goes.
You have to elevate everything. You can elevate your peanuts and your pretzels by taking them from the store-bought bag and transferring them into a cellophane bag. That's an elevation. Just in case you didn't know that, Adam Carolla, living under a rock out there in California. This is one of the most glamorous moments of my life. Sure, that's how my friends talk to me too when they come over. They're always telling me how glamorous everything is when they're hanging out with me. I just want to incorporate these tricks into your everyday as she prances around in a beekeeper's.
At the same time, fresh media reports focused once again on the relationship between Prince Harry and Prince William. The brothers remained at the center of public speculation.
Several publications reported that despite discussions involving King Charles, there had been no meaningful contact between William and Harry during the visit. Sources quoted in those reports suggested that communication between the brothers remained effectively non-existent. Kensington Palace did not publicly engage with much of the speculation, continuing its long-standing approach of avoiding commentary on private family matters. That silence contrasted with the steady stream of anonymous briefings and media analysis appearing elsewhere, allowing the absence of information to become a story in itself.
The role of the media also became part of the debate. People questioned not only what was being reported, but how those reports were taking shape.
Royal coverage has always relied heavily on unnamed sources, background conversations, and unofficial briefings. Supporters of the Sussexes argue that anonymous sourcing exists throughout royal reporting and is hardly unique to Harry and Meghan. Critics respond that repeated anonymous briefings inevitably influence public perception, particularly during sensitive moments involving family relationships. Because neither side typically comments on every report, competing narratives often develop simultaneously, leaving the public to decide which version appears most credible.
Another issue continued resurfacing throughout the discussion. It involved King Charles and the difficult position he occupies as both monarch and father.
Since ascending the throne, King Charles has faced the challenge of separating personal family matters from his constitutional responsibilities. As monarch, he represents the institution of the crown rather than individual family interests. As a father, however, he continues to face deeply personal decisions involving his younger son and grandchildren. Many observers believe those two roles sometimes pull in opposite directions. Balancing compassion with constitutional duty has become one of the defining challenges of his reign, particularly whenever Prince Harry returns to Britain.
Attention also turned toward the next generation of the royal family. Many analysts believe future relationships may ultimately determine how this story develops over time.
Prince William continues preparing for the responsibilities he will eventually inherit as king, while Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are gradually becoming more visible in public life. At the same time, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet are growing up largely outside the United Kingdom. That geographical and personal distance has prompted ongoing discussion about how connected the younger generation of the family will remain in the years ahead. Although no one can predict the future, many royal observers agree that today's disagreements could influence family relationships for decades.
Looking at the broader picture, it's clear that this story extends well beyond one magazine article or one difficult week. It reflects years of unresolved tensions that continue to shape public perception.
Since the Sussexes stepped away from official royal duties, nearly every major development has generated intense international interest. Interviews, documentaries, memoirs, court cases, charitable initiatives, media projects, and family meetings have all become part of a much larger narrative. Supporters see Harry and Meghan as individuals seeking independence while protecting their family. Critics believe many controversies have been intensified by repeated public disclosures and media strategies. Those sharply different interpretations explain why each new development immediately becomes another chapter in an already complex story.
Recent developments have also shown that public interest remains remarkably strong. Stories involving the Sussexes continue to dominate headlines across Britain, the United States, and many other countries.
Interest in the British royal family has always extended far beyond the United Kingdom, but Harry and Meghan's decision to establish a new life in America added an international dimension unlike anything seen in previous generations. Their activities now intersect with entertainment, philanthropy, politics, constitutional debate, and celebrity culture all at once. That combination ensures that almost every public appearance or reported meeting attracts worldwide coverage, regardless of whether the news involves family relationships, legal proceedings, or commercial ventures.
Ultimately, the events discussed throughout this story demonstrate how closely personal decisions and public responsibilities remain connected for members of the royal family. Even seemingly private choices often become matters of global conversation.
Whether the reported People magazine briefing violated an understanding with Buckingham Palace, whether security concerns fully explain every decision that was made, or whether future reconciliation is still possible are questions that continue to divide opinion. Some believe trust has been damaged beyond repair, while others remain hopeful that private conversations away from cameras may eventually rebuild family relationships. What remains beyond dispute is that Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, King Charles, Prince William, and the wider royal family continue to occupy a unique place in global public life, where every development is examined from multiple perspectives. As with many stories involving the monarchy, definitive answers often remain elusive, leaving interpretation shaped as much by personal viewpoint as by the publicly available facts.